Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining me on today's pre-recorded class of how to complete your English CSEC SBA tutorial. In this class, in this pre-recorded session, I am going to walk you through the SBA process. So by the end of this class, you should be able to complete your SBA with the guidance that is being given. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen with the PowerPoint that I have prepared that is going to discuss the protocols and the stipulations and everything that is needed for the SBA. So before we even get into our plan of investigation or reflections or presentation and the written report, I'm just going to put into context the reason for the English CSEC SBA. So for CXC, all of their subjects require a practical component, and this practical component is basically the research aspect of the particular discipline that you're in. So if you're doing business, the research that business people usually do is called field research. So you go out, you create a business, you actually do the thing, you collect data, and then you assess the performance of the thing to see, what you can learn. If you're doing sciences, you would obviously be doing lab research. So you go to the lab, you start doing whatever you have to do, and then you document the results that you get in the lab. So for humanities subjects, in humanities, we're basically looking at works of literature, articles, published information, pictures, any creative work, right? So the English CSEC SBA is your introduction to what we know as literary research. There are different types of research. If you are doing, or if you have interest in doing Teachers College, part of the teaching portfolio would be to do action research, where you decide that you're going to take action and then you conduct you go ahead and you do the action and then you collect information on how that action is creating results and so on, and you assess whether or not that action is working for you or not. So there are different types of research, and all CSEC subjects require you to do some aspect of research in the particular field or discipline. So for English, we are doing our literary research, which is using articles, pictures, videos, any form of written communication. You can go ahead and research that, extrapolate information, and compile data on what you have assessed. So that is what we're going to be doing for the English CSEC SB. Here we have the assessment criteria. So your SBA is going to be made up of your plan of investigation, 3 reflections, your written report, and your oral presentation. Part of this is going to be your participation measure. So your participation measure is how seriously and how much effort you put into your SBA. Do you submit the work on time? Do you take pride in what you're presenting? Is the information that you're presenting well researched, or have you basically scrapped all of the different areas of the SBA? You can receive 5 marks from simply doing what you're supposed to do to get a great SBA. Next, there is the quality of group activity. Now, because the written report does require you to have a group component, because all areas of research require both individual and group components. You go into a lab, you focus on what you observe individually, but there are going to be other observers in the lab who will also need to compile their information. You're doing a business, yes, you will do what you have to do for the business, but there are other people in the business who are going to be contributing to the workings of that business. So much like every other task in life that we cannot do alone, we have to do a section of the SBA with company, with a group. So the first thing that we usually do is collect our group, right? Create our group, decide who you want to work with based on their work ethic and so on, so that when it comes to the quality of group activity, all individuals can receive a maximum of 10 marks for how they would have contributed within the group to their individuals individual portfolios, if that makes any sense. So in total, you'll have 45 marks, and these 45 marks can be attained in full, as with all CSEC SBAs. As a matter of fact, with all CXC portfolios, including CPEA, CAPE, CSEC, everything. This SBA is called a school-based assessment. School-based assessments are actually teaching tools. So as you learn and as you do work, and your work is assessed for the skills that are listed as your objective skills that you should acquire, you are entitled to redo those parts until you have received full marks for those skills. So they're actually teaching tools through assessment. So every time you're graded and you see your grade, you can assess how well or how poorly you're getting used to the work. So the first thing you have to do is choose a broad topic that all members of the group has a common interest. So you have selected your group. Now you're going to choose a broad topic. So broad topics can be things like noise pollution. We know broad topics because there is no specificity in the topic. We don't know who, when, where, or whatever. All we know is the what? Noise pollution. So after the group has decided on the broad topic, and I would suggest that you find a group who tend to have the same interests as you do if you can, because the SBA is something that you should do because you feel passionate about the topic, not because the teacher told you to do the topic, or this is a good research topic that everybody has done already, so the information is easy, because you may find yourself plagiarizing in that situation. So find a topic where you genuinely have an interest, and then you work from there. So after you have your broad topic, you will then narrow your broad topic. So narrowing your topic requires you to give the specifics. So a narrow topic would be the impact of noise pollution on our daily lives in St. Vincent. Okay, it tells us we're looking at noise pollution. We're looking at how noise pollution affects what we do routinely in the country of St. Vincent. Why is it important for us to choose place and specific areas? Because noise pollution is different in every area. There's noise pollution in the city in Kingston. There's noise pollution in Leeward, where there is a lot of construction going on the roads. It's different types of noise pollution. So where you talk about noise pollution, which is Mustique versus mainland, or you can even look at Jamaica, which is a highly industrialized country, and the different areas that have noise pollution and so on. So narrowing your topic allows you to hone in on the specific areas that you're going to be observing for data. And then it allows your reader not to have this wide expectation. They actually know what you are looking at. So ways to lessen noise pollution. Government should take more action to lessen noise pollution. If you look at all of these topics, you realize each topic requires a different type of writing. So various types of noise pollution is expository. It is talking about types of noise pollution. It is informing you. It's probably comparing and contrasting the different types of noise pollution and how they affect us differently. Impact of noise pollution on our daily lives, that is cause and effect. So obviously you're structuring your information and you're researching your information that informs cause and effect. Ways to lessen noise pollution. This is a method and process, or method/process essay. So your method essay would require you to have steps. It will give you suggestions. It will give you an outcome, etc. Government should take more action to lessen noise pollution. This is an argument. So when you're doing your research, you're literally looking for three major points that is going to show how the government is responsible for lessening noise pollution. So as you narrow your topic, try to see what is a type of a writing, the format of the writing, the structure of the writing that will be required of you. When you establish this, based on all of the different teachings we have done with the types of essays, when you have established what your topic is going to be, how you're going to narrow your topic, and then what type of structure what type of essay structure that narrow topic takes on, it then helps you to brainstorm, research, organize, categorize your research data. So if I'm doing an argument and I'm looking for three main points that show how the government should take action to lessen noise pollution, I don't particularly need to look at the various types of noise pollution and go through a compare and contrast process of looking at types of noise pollution and so on. Okay? So that is just showing how all of the content that we would have learned concerning types of writing is actually informing how you will go about creating a portfolio. So let's say, for example, you've decided that you're going to do investigative journalism, right? And you're tasked with coming up with a topic that might be intriguing to you and your peers or the public or society or whatever. This SBA would be preparing you for having to do that sort of preparation, to find a scintillating topic, to narrow that topic, then to see how you're going to present this information, and then go ahead researching or investigating information that would inform this particular type of writing. Firstly, after you have decided all of that, you are then going to create what we know as your plan of investigation. So your plan of investigation is exactly what it says in the name. It is showing how you plan or how you intend to investigate or research the topic you have chosen. There are certain questions that you can use to determine what would be your plan of investigation. So to receive the highest amount of marks, you would have to give a reason for choosing your topic. This reason has to be beyond, I want to do it for an SBA. This reason has to be a deep understanding of what knowledge can do. When I say deep understanding, establish that this information is relevant for young people. This information is relevant to me as somebody who's a teacher. This information is relevant to me, to somebody who's living in poverty. You have to show where the topic was not just a topic that you decided to pick up frivolously, but rather you contemplated what are the benefits of you dedicating time to doing the research on this. So naturally, the first thing that you will state in your plan of investigation will be the topic you have chosen, as in the narrow topic you have chosen, and why you have chosen that topic, right? So you will provide a reason as to the relevance. Think of this section of your plan of investigation as your contextualization. So the same way for our introductory paragraph, we would often give our broad statement, or we would often give some sort of data or background or something to contextualize why this information is pertinent, why it's important. So too, when we state our reason for choosing the topic, we're contextualizing the importance of our portfolio. So you have to state the title and you have to give the reason. Next, you will give the expected benefits to you as an English student. So you will basically say, what do I hope to gain from engaging in this information? Now, when they say as an English student, we're looking at both benefits to you personally, as in what is the information going to give me personally, as well as me as a student. What skills will I be using that will benefit me in the future when I do this portfolio, right? And these skills can be found um, in different areas. So when I say different areas, I'm talking about in your syllabus. If you look at your syllabus, you're going to find a list of skills that you're supposed to know as an English student. You recognize and state facts explicitly, extract specific information from what is read, identify stated material, recognize implicit themes, distinguish factual statements. So if you look at your syllabus, you will find all of this, your expression, will you be able to use appropriate grammar? acquire self-knowledge through self-expression, give aesthetic satisfaction to others, be creative, use language in a creative and imaginative way, understand tone and register, right? So in your syllabus, all of these are skills that you would find necessary: thinking, reflecting, introspecting, making guesses, extrapolating, assuming, inferring, outlining, paraphrasing, predicting. All of these are skills that you use in English, either to interrogate text, present information, compile information. All of these are skills that you should learn. So when you're thinking about the benefits to you as an English student, think about the objectives stated in your syllabus. When you're thinking about the benefits to you as a person, think about what self-knowledge and self-awareness is going to do for you when you're finished on the topic. The next thing you would look at is how you're going to conduct the experiment. So beyond answering the question, what is your topic, why you've chosen the topic, and what are the benefits to you as a person and a student, you will then say how you intend to go about collecting information. So most of us will do research, we will do library work, we will do um, we may choose to look at articles, we may look at pictures, movies, YouTube videos. However you intend to collect information on your topic, that's what you're going to talk about, how you're going to do that. So you're going to say where I'm going to get this information, whether it's going to be online or it's going to be printed. Just remember that at least one of your sources must be printed. When I say printed, one of them must have been in some published form, like it went through press. So a book, a newspaper, a magazine, all of these are tangible things, tangible pieces of literature. At least one of the pieces of literature must be printed. The other two can be audiovisual, it can be articles, it can be written, etc. Right? And then you will say what these three pieces, where you're going to find these three pieces, how you're going to find these three pieces. So the topics for your plan of investigation is, why did you choose a topic? Right? First of all, you have to state the topic, then you have to say why you chose a topic, basically what is the broad topic that your group chose, and then what is the narrow topic that you chose. What do you hope to gain as a person and as a student doing this SBA? And then how do you intend to collect information, whether you are going to do online research, you're going to go to a library and get research, you're going to watch videos, you're going to listen to music, you're going to read a poem, whatever it is. Say what your three pieces. Now, it's limited to three pieces because they're going to be asking you to do certain things with the three pieces. But that's not to say that you cannot use more than three pieces to compile and research your information. We just need to see three pieces investigated, researched, um, carefully, critically analyzed, and presented. Where there we have biographies, histories, novels, poems, plays, reports, short stories, speeches, advertisements, brochures, cartoon strips, diaries, magazines, newspaper articles, pamphlets, and so on. All of these are examples of pieces of secondary literature or secondary data that you can use to get your SBA started. Now, when you get the pieces, you're going to have to interrogate the text. Interrogation of text is what we call critical analysis. Now, those of you who have not done English B, you will have to watch a video on critical analysis essays, and you will learn how to go about, first of all, engaging with literature in order to critically analyze the literature, right? So they're expecting you to think about the thing that you're reading, reflect on what you're reading, ask yourselves questions. pertaining to the information that you have just read. Ask yourself questions about what you may discover if you continue reading. Make a guess about what you may come across when you continue reading, right? So when they say practice close reading, practice reading particularly not only just for the gist of the thing, but for the knowledge, for the intellect that lines behind it. So, you look for the key points. How are the key points presented? What are the techniques used in these key points? How will I be able to summarize and paraphrase the information that I have read? How can I predict what information that may come from the information that I have already done? How was the author instrumental in presenting this information? What techniques did they use? Were these techniques used to help me, or were these techniques confusing or whatever? What is the structure? Did they present most important to least important, or most severe to least severe, or least severe to most severe? What is the reason why they chose to present it in that particular sequence? Does the person compare and contrast information? Do they juxtapose the information, or do they put all the similarities together, all the differences together? So when you really interrogate a text, that is called critical analysis. So you're supposed to be able to address not only the content that is in the literature, but also the craft behind the literature. And when I say craft, I mean, how did the person go about creating an impression? How did they go about expressing themselves in a way that made you believe whatever about the person? Maybe the person may be very passionate about something, or you can read something and know that the person hurried it down. I do that all the time, right? And this is basically what you're supposed to be doing in your small group activities. So even though you're looking at your individual topic, bear in mind that everybody in the SBA should have their own individual stuff selected already. So if I have decided that my group is going to look at crime, right? Because remember, we did stuff on crime for our expository and our argument. So we looked at crime. So you have three pieces of data on crime. You have probably a newspaper article. You have a book about something about crime, and you have a newspaper, a news recording, a news interview recording. Let's say you have those three pieces of data. Somebody else who is doing crime, who might be looking at the causes of crime, they may have different data. The other person who is looking at how crime affects families, they may have maybe a psychological case study on children who lost family to crime, or whose father was not present or mother not present to crime, and so on and so forth. Now, when you get in your small groups, before you even start planning how you're going to do your write-up and so on, when you get in your small groups, you're actually supposed to be doing discussions on what you have learned on the topic that is going to help to build how you're going to frame your individual work so that it is cohesive with the work that your peers are doing. Because at the end of the day, the written report, which is the group component, must have some sort of fluidity. It must flow. It must gel. So in your in-group activity, you're actually supposed to be looking at how my individual topic and my individual perspectives is informing the overall portfolio, that as a group, when we come together, everybody can see, yes, we're definitely looking at crime, but we're looking at different areas of crime. So take, for example, COVID-19. COVID-19 was one virus. But when we were going through the pandemic, every department within the ministry, the different government, within the government, the different ministries within the government, each department had something to contribute to their data collection of the pandemic. So what was discovered in the Ministry of Health? It's very different than what we discovered in the Ministry of Education. And it was very different in what they discovered in the Ministry of Agriculture. And it is very different from what they discovered in other ministries. But this one COVID-19 pandemic was able to inform all of these different ministries. It's just one thing. So think about it like that. That if I were a civil servant working within the government and I'm supposed to compile a portfolio to present maybe at the UN to assess the COVID-19 pandemic and its effects and so on, I still have to liaise with education and health and all of these different places to ensure that what I am presenting is a cohesive document, even though we're looking at different aspects of the same thing. This is what you're doing essentially in your SBA. So in your in-group activity, I'm looking for the quality of your liaisons. Did these liaisons bring about a general consensus that everyone had? Or is this particular document disjointed, this contribution irrelevant, and so on? So even though you're doing your independent topics, it still must have some cohesion with the complete group, if you understand my example. So these are just the skills, as I said, that you are supposed to acquire. Um, Next, we're looking at your reflection too. For some reason, I don't see that slide. Anyway, the section on your reflections, your reflection two. It doesn't have a slide stating your reflection two, but this is the information for your reflection two. After you have done your plan of investigation, you're going to start with your first reflection. Your reflection one is a summary. I repeat, your reflection one is a summary, and it takes on the form of a literature review. If you've never done a literature review is where you present your cited research information. You either summarize it, paraphrase it, or quote it directly. We're not going to be quoting directly, but part of the literature review is that you can quote directly, or you can paraphrase, or you can summarize. And you're going to say why it is relevant to your study. How am I going to use this piece of information in my study? Okay? So the information for your reflection one would be the name and the source of your document that you have chosen. I repeat, the name and the source of the document you have chosen. So the source can be online, it can be a printed book, it can be an online video, it can be a picture, a billboard. Just state where you got it from. So you give the name. So I am going to be looking at the newspaper article, blah, 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 in the Searchlight newspaper, date or issue, whatever it is you need to do. You're going to state the type of writing that it is. So if it's a report, it's a report. It's a newspaper report. If it is an expository piece, you say it's an expository piece. If it's a letter from the Prime Minister or a letter from UNESCO or a letter from the Queen, you say it's a letter, right? So you give the name, you give the author, you give the information of where I can find it, and then you say the type of writing that it is, as well as the source. And then you will go ahead and give a brief summary of the article, right? And then you will say why you're using it, right? So this piece of information informs on blah, 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 whatever. Or you can say it compares different types of crime, whatever it is, but you just give a summary. The same way for a summary, you say, well, this is the information that is presented in this document, and then you present the summary. You still have to follow the rules and regulations of summary writing. You still have to, give where you got the information. You still have to not include biases. You still have to not input your own assumptions and inferences. You still have to state only the main idea. All of that in your reflection one is the summary. Reflection two is your critical analysis. So like I said, reflection one is your summary in the form of a literature review. Reflection two is your critical analysis. So with critical analysis, we look at the craft. We look at the craft and we look at the effect of the craft, right? So if you're looking at nonfiction pieces, then we know it either exposes or it informs or it compares or it gives the process or it shows the effects or it highlights the issue. However you want to explain the purpose for the writing, you must at least know what is the purpose or the intention of the author through the writing. You're going to look at the use of language. So let us say, for example, you choose a newspaper article. You're going to say, how do you know it's a newspaper article? It presents factual data in this particular structure. We established the conventions. I know this is a letter because it had an address, it had a title, it had a salutation, etc. So we examine the format that the writer chose. We examine how that format is pertinent to the topic. So for example, if I'm presenting an argument, I am not going to present an argument in an expository way. I have to argue, and therefore there must be techniques, persuasive techniques found within that argument. So I am extrapolating, I am looking, I'm deciphering, I'm interrogating, I am investigating this thing to see what is the type of writing and what are the different techniques that we're using this type of writing. So I am going to look at things like the expression of the author, the structure of the piece, the words that are used, the structures that are embedded in there that are supposed to be effective. So arguments are effective because they have persuasive techniques. Expository essays are effective in giving people insight because it outlines things in a particular structure. A letter is effective because it informs and it gets to the point and it has an address to whom it is supposed to be geared to or delivered to. So we're looking at all of these things in our second reflection because our second reflection is the critical analysis. So we're going to look at the first question, whereas with the first reflection, our question is what is the name of the piece? Who is the author? What is the type of writing? What is the source of the piece? And a brief summary. You repeat this for 3 pieces, one of which must be in a printed form. Even if it was printed and then re-uploaded digitally, that can work. But it must have that printed, when you have a printed book, okay, let me see if I can get a book here. When you have a printed book, in the first page of your book, you're gonna see this information here, right? All that written information there. It's gonna give you a specific code. Each book that is printed anywhere in the world has a specific code that if you search that code, you will be able to find the book, right? I'll look and see if I can find another book here. Let's see this one. Yeah. Okay. So this book has the stuff on the back there. So basically, one of the pieces of writing that you choose, or one of the pieces of data that you choose, must have this particular format in which we cite printed data. So when you are using your information to create your bibliography and you're citing your sources in your portfolio, there are different ways that Strange. Hmm. Don't know what happened there, but it just left me. Okay, so we're back here. Why? Right. Your third reflection is exactly what it is. It is a reflective reflection. When I say a reflective reflection, when you engage with literature, you're supposed to become smarter. You're supposed to learn. When you read, you're supposed to learn. And you're supposed to be able to say what you have learned, how you have learned this, how it was effective in teaching you. You're supposed to be able to say that this piece of work has impacted me, right? And when something impacts you, it speaks on the effectiveness of that literature. So your third reflection is basically looking at your emotional response, the effectiveness of you having engaged in literature. And this is something you're supposed to do all the time. No matter what content you're engaging in, whether it is audiovisual, written, even if it's a conversation you're having with someone, at some point in time, you're literally supposed to sit and digest that form of communication and the content of that communication, because that is how we develop self-awareness. That is how we develop an understanding of self and the world in which we live. That is the reason why there is an English B component, because we're supposed to look at other people's stories. We're supposed to look at other ways of expression that people see the world. We call them perspectives. And we're supposed to say how those perspectives impact us. How did the author or the creator impress upon us something, right? And that is part of becoming um, that is part of interrogating information. That's becoming self-aware. It is part of becoming self-aware. So if you read something or you do a course and you still can't show how you as a person has changed, your behavior, your mentality has changed, then often there is no way to determine whether learning took place. You probably just did it because you were asked to do it, but not necessarily because learning took place. So when you are engaging in any form of research, any form of literature, or whatever, you're supposed to have an understanding of how this thing is making you feel, and whether it is, informing you to be a better person. We can all learn, even if we read something that may be inaccurate or not in accordance with our beliefs or so on. We can still learn something from that. The idea is not to be judgmental and dismissive, but rather just really engage in the multiple perspectives of what exists in life and see how that exposure and those experiences inform who we are. It can either reassure you in who you are, or it can actually make you change your mind. All of these things are possible when we read, and that is why reading is fundamental. So, as part of the process, you have to reflect. So, your reflection tree is going to say how you have become a better person in doing the SBA. So, you will include information like what was the process like? You have to talk about the process of doing the SBA. So, what was the process like? And what did the process of doing the SBA do for me? Also, what did the information that I had to research in the portfolio do for me? What did using the skills that I was taught in English do for me? How can I see that my behavior, my mentality has changed since I have engaged in this endeavor? Right? So you include the information that is more effective, that it deals more with me as a person. So your reflection three should be one of the easiest reflections, but it is often not, because most people do the SBA because they're thinking, I'm doing an assignment and this is what I have to do. So let me just get it over with and done. But for somebody who really spent time, like, I like this topic, I like the fact that I thought this, but then in my research, I realized that my thought was wrong. And it helped me to become more intrigued in what else I can learn on the topic. There's so many things that you can say you have learned. So you look at you as a person, you look at you as a student, Like my writing really improved, or my expression is improved, or I now understand the difference between expository and persuasive writing because of the nature of my topic. Or you look at the fact that you can now summarize or paraphrase things better because of the limited word count that is in these reflections, because each reflection must be 100 words, right? So you have your limitations, but you have enough room for you to expand and say how you have expand, right? Or expanded. So you look at yourself as an individual, both as a student and as a person, and how has doing this SBA impacted you. You give your emotional response, how you feel about it, or what you think about it, and then you can also give like a physical assessment, like what skills can I definitely see has improved since my practice, right? You can say you're better at whatever, or you can even say you didn't even know you were that terrible, and you've worked on this area and that area, and you can see improvement. But again, keep it short and sweet because it's 100 words. So those are your 3 reflections. Just to do a quick recap, we have already discussed that you're doing your plan of investigation, and your plan of investigation will observe how you intend to go about doing the research. It is literally the plan, how you have planned out your research. So you're gonna give the topic, why you chose the topic, where you're gonna get the information, and what you hope to uncover in doing this personal reasons. Then we have your reflections. So your 3 reflections. I don't know what's happening here. Your 3 reflections, for your 3 reflections, you will then start with obviously your summary, or what we will call your literature review. So for your literature review, we have, for your literature review, you're going to give your summary, you're going to state your sources, and you're going to give the name of the author, the name of the piece that you have chosen, etc. And you're going to go ahead doing that. For your second reflection, that is your critical analysis, you're going to investigate and interrogate the text. So you're going to ask questions, you're going to look at the structure, you're going to look at the craft, you're going to look at the content, you're going to look at the techniques, you're going to look at the devices, and then you're going to just assess their effectiveness, whether they were able to move you, they were able to impress you, they were able to do what they say they're supposed to do. And then our third reflection is generally how we feel about the content, about our investigation of the content, about our revelations on the content, about our skill, etc. Now we have our written report. Now it is advised that you do your first and second reflection when you're in your research stage, as in you have decided on the pieces and you do your first and second reflection. Then it is advised that you go ahead and you compile your oral presentation. Now, the oral presentation, it requires you to present what you have learned. So instead of writing out an essay, you're going to present the information in a format of your choice. Now, not because you have chosen to do a poem or you have chosen to do a skit, which is drama, means that you're going to cast aside structure and you're going to just go with what feels nice, what is fun, what may be funny, right? If you want to create humor, there are techniques to create humor, and there's a strategy behind that in order for it to be effective. And it's not about what feels good, like, oh, I'm just gonna do this because it feels good and this will be fun and everybody's gonna find this funny and whatever. Just remember that your oral presentations are recorded and they are graded. The purpose of your oral presentation is to convey to your audience the information that you have researched. So the first thing that you should be considering is, how am I going to teach what I have learned? If I'm going to do it in a skit, if I'm going to do it in a poem, I still have to have good content. I still have to have a structure that the audience can follow. And I still must employ the techniques that guide the specific um, presentation that I'm doing. So if I'm doing cause and effect, I have to present causes and effects, and I have to present those cause and effects in a particular way. I have to either go from least severe to more severe, or more severe to least severe, or I have to do it in a block style. So I present all the severe, and then you understand how I can do them juxtaposing. It depends on how you present them, but it still must have some structure to show that you understand the type of writing that you're doing and the techniques that is most effective given the topic. So even though you're going to do a poem, I still expect to see some structure based on the topic that you choose. So when you choose whatever, it has to be a minimum of 3 minutes and a maximum of 5 minutes. But I really don't like to stress the maximum, because CXC specifically states in the syllabus that we shouldn't dissuade students from speaking, because we don't often get oral practice. You're doing a language, all languages have an oral component. But in English, we focus so much on the writing that students often don't get to practice their presentation. And public speaking and doing speeches and all of that is part of being an effective communicator. So you have to be able to deliver. So even though they said 3 to 5 minutes, if you go 6 or 7 minutes, 10 minutes, you're not going to be penalized for the time. But I will guide you on how maybe you can cut down the presentation and give you an opportunity to try again, right? And when we have all decided that, okay, our oral presentations are perfect and we're going to give it one last shot, then we can get rid of the auditions and we can say, okay, group, we are now going to present our oral presentations. Even though you would have seen them time and time again, remember, each person is entitled to redoing their presentation until they have fully finished or accomplished their full grade that they are capable of getting. So I'm not gonna give you 10 for your oral presentation if it's an 8. What I'll do is give you the 8 and then tell you, you know what? Here's how you can make it a 10. And then you can then present again and I can give you a full mark. Okay? So the beginning of the oral presentation basically starts with like a summary. So if you're going to give like a speech, or so there'll be an introduction, an abstract, if you may. That's what we call it in literature. An abstract of what is presented. So let's say you're somebody who likes to read medical journals and so on. You usually see abstract, where it basically summarizes what you're presenting. So for your oral presentation, regardless of the genre that you choose to present in, you still have to provide us with an abstract. And the abstract is going to tell us the basic information, which is what is your narrow topic, how you're going to present it, as in the format and the structure that you're going to present it in, the 3 main points that you have decided to present on, and within your presentation, you must cite the 3 pieces of data that you have collected. So even if it's a poem, find a way to cite the source. If you have to say, Dr. So-and-so from the medical profession said blah, 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 and you rhyme blah, blah, blah with la, 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 beautiful, right? But you still have to find a way to put your sources in there. You still have to find a way to let us know that the information is not simply out of your head, but you would have done research. You have the literature review of the information that you've researched, and here is how I'm using it in my presentation. Beyond that, take off. Beyond that, you're not supposed to, even if you're doing a speech, Even if you decide to do it like a news report and you're doing a report, you're not supposed to be reading like this because that is bad public speaking. That's bad presentation. You have to maintain eye contact. So your oral presentation is going to be judged based on a rubric of how you present to an audience orally. You have to do certain things to maintain the attention of the audience, and that's what we're going to be looking for in your oral presentation as to well how skillfully you incorporated your sources and how well you explain and express your content. If you sound confident or if you sound not too sure, or if you still are struggling to pronounce certain words, all of these things are considered. And this is the rubric. So we're looking for fluency. Does it sound like you don't know what you're talking about, or can you deliver on the topic? How have you structured your work? Does it make sense? Can I follow along? Does it have a thesis statement, or does it at least present the points that you are saying clearly and concisely? What is the language that is used? How skillfully did I use language? Did I employ any specific techniques or any literary devices that can make my presentation alluring or make it intriguing? How did I hold the audience's attention and so on? These are some of the things that we're looking for so that you can be awarded your full marks. Okay, so this is your third reflection. Remember, I told you I want your third reflection to be done after you did all of this because for your written report, it's going to be very hectic. So we're looking at the written report. You have to provide for each topic these different areas. You're going to have these titles. You're going to say what is your broad topic. So the broad topic here that we can see is how young people are influenced by advertising. And this is taken from a textbook. You're going to give the names of the group members, and then you're going to state what are the key issues. So this written report is written report. This would be like the final portfolio for all the different ministries if the government was trying to compile something to give to UNESCO about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's a written report. It's a report that is written about things that were written. So we have the key issues. So within the key issues, we're going to basically look at all of the narrow topics, all of the subtopics. That's what's going to be presented in the key issues because those are the key areas that were investigated. So you're going to find a way to create a paragraph that compiles all of the narrow topics that you and your group have chosen, and that would be your key issues. So for the key issues, it says for our topic, we studied how young people's self-image is influenced by advertising. So that's the first topic, how young people's image is influenced by advertising. We looked at the techniques advertisers use to persuade young people to purchase items. That was the topic, techniques used by advertisers to purchase young, you know. The third topic, um, to dress and to behave in a certain way. So how they persuade people to dress and purchase items that, so probably somebody did how advertisers influence young people to dress a certain way, and then you may have somebody else who did how advertisers encourage people to behave a certain way. So they basically merged the topics and created one sentence, and then they created one general outcome, right? So what did we all learn from what we researched? We learned that it is important for young people to feel part of the crowd and advertisers to play on this to influence them. So basically, everybody's topic spoke about the need to be included and how advertisers prey on that need to be included in young people. And that's how you got that. So the next section is your processes, right? Excuse me. So your process is going to basically show what you did. So obviously you collected data, you investigated that data, you compiled information, you liaised with your group mates, you came up with a general consensus, and then you did your oral presentation, right? In the process, you're going to say, who researched what? So I researched online, and you're going to state the sources. Now, the thing about it is, if you liaise well with your group, you will be able to fit at least five, 5 to 10 sources. Even though you may have a group member of 5 people and each person has 3 pieces, which will give us a total of 15, because the topic is supposed to be a broad topic, you may find 2 of the group members may have the same source because 2 of the group members use that same pieces of article. So they're not saying that you have to have 15 pieces cited, but you have to have at least 5, right? At least 5 main ones that we can see in everybody. So if you take, you know, different one from everybody and you state your sources, you say who did that research, who contributed this data, who contributed that data, and so on. That's what we're looking in the process, right? So you're looking at how each group member contributed to the overall research project. Who researched what and what it is they researched. When it comes to the procedures now, the procedure would be outlining each step in the process, right? So I know I have to do online research, and I know I have to investigate, and I know I have to compile information. Fine. The procedure now is, when I was online, what did I do? Did I just go to Google and search, or did I ask questions and then I looked for information that answered those questions? Or did I ask my mother, who is a doctor, and get feedback from her, and then I research that? Or did I listen to an interview to get an understanding of what I needed to do? And then I went ahead and I did research, and you know, I realized I was wrong, so I had to go back and do research or whatever. So in the procedures, you're basically saying how you worked along both as a group and as individuals to achieve the outcome. Each individual of the group really should sit down and have their own answers. And then as a group, you come together and you share your answers and you see where your experiences were either similar or dissimilar. You take all the dissimilar ones and you put them in the procedures, as well as the similar ones that you can merge together. Okay? So you cannot do this written report by yourself because you need everybody's feedback, because everybody's feedback must be in this one document. When you're finished, you're going to just duplicate the document and disseminate to every member of the group. So you have to have some cohesion. Then you're going to talk about the outcomes. So what did you all uncover? What did you all realize? And this is going to be both from a content perspective, as in what did we realize about the content that we were researching, as well as from an effective perspective. So how do we feel as a group about what we have researched? How we are better? So basically, you're looking at your processes. Your processes is basically talking about where you got the information, what is the information that you use, and the regular process of your plan of investigation. So basically, looking at everybody's plan of investigation should give you an idea of the process that every plan of investigation, you can all read those pieces and see how all of your experiences, or how all of the steps that you thought that you had is similar. When it comes to your procedures, that's actually your second reflection. The procedures is how we all interrogated the text, how we felt about the information, what we learned from the information. Okay? So everybody's second reflection along with um the a bit of, well, the second reflection along with a bit of the third reflection would give you your procedures. And when I say a bit of the third reflection, um the third reflection would talk about like how you as an individual would change in your mindset and so on. So the procedures will basically outline, when we did this, this is what happened. But you're not going to expound on that. Your third reflection is what is really going to show your outcome. Because the same way your outcome spoke about what you learn from the content, what you learn as a student, and how you feel now that you have completed all of this, that is what is going to come in your outcome. So by looking at everybody's third reflection, you should have a summary of your outcomes, or you should be able to compile what are your outcomes. Okay? So your group members, everybody know what is the tight broad topic, and everybody know who are the group members. The key issues is literally a plan of investigation all merged together with your broad topic and what you hope to learn, the reason for you choosing the topic. When it comes to the processes, that is your first reflection, which is your summary and your sources. Your procedures is your second reflection, which is your interrogation of the text and what you learn from that interrogation, right? Briefly stated. What you learn, briefly stated. Then we have the outcome. And the outcomes is what is going to inform your overall change, which is your third reflection. So if you do your reflections properly, when it comes to sitting down in a group and finding out what cohesively we have done, you should be able to say, well, okay, this, that, and that, based on your reflection. When I'm reading the written report, I'm looking at your reflection, I'm looking at your group mates' reflection, and I'm saying, well, clearly what you planned to investigate or how you plan to research this thing, you did not achieve that because here in your outcomes, it's saying differently than what is in your plan of investigation and your reflection. Okay? So that is the sort of quality of group activity I'm looking for. I will know if you never have any cohesive contact. I will know if you did not liaise because your outcomes are not going to reflect your reflections. Your procedures are not going to reflect your reflections because this written report is simply pulling from information that you have already worked on individually. You're just finding a way to make it more concise and merge. Okay? So, based on the assessment of your written report, obviously I'm looking for the content. I'm looking to see if everything that is supposed to be in there is in there. Does it have your key issues? Does it have your procedures? Does it have your outcome? Whatever. Then I'm going to look at evidence of investigation. I am going to see whether or not the things that I just said, as in your reflections on your plan of investigation, is reflected in the written report. I'm going to look for evidence that you actually did what you were supposed to do. And then I'm going to look at the language and use of vocabulary. So I'm going to see how y'all as a group took everybody's individual expression and merged them into one document. Okay? Then you're going to get to the formatting part. The formatting part is just putting in your cover page. Your cover page will have set information. I will tell you what is the information in your cover page when we get there. Your table of contents will simply be listing out the different aspects of your portfolio and the page that you're found on. Then you will then have your plan of investigation, which is already completed. You will have your bibliography or your reference page, which you would already complete. You would have your page with your different reflections, reflections 1, 2, and 3. You will have your abstract of your oral presentation, and then you would have one duplicated written report for every member of your group. Okay, now CSEC has also included a section for what I call appendix. I will call it appendix because that's basically what it is, where you have to provide evidence of your source. So if you went online, take a screenshot. If you use a newspaper, take a photocopy of the clipping. If you use a magazine article and you put the actual magazine article in your portfolio, go ahead and put it in. So in the section where I said sources, this is actually like an appendix where the sources that you use, you provide physical evidence that they actually exist. If it is a book, you can take a picture of the book. You can